Good morning, students. Today we will see the anatomy solved question paper of November 2020 of 2016 scheme. So the first question is draw and label the parts of GI system and note a applied anatomy of the appendix. Here is the picture of the GI system. You may have it in your textbooks also, so you can please refer to that pictures. So next is appendix. Add a short note on appendix. Appendix is a finger-like blind-ended tube connected to the cecum from which it develops in the embryo. The cecum is a pouch-like structure of the colon located in the junction of the small and large intestine. The term vermiform comes from the Latin and means worm shape. Appendix used to be considered as a vestigial organ, but this view has been changed over the past decades. Recent research suggests that appendix may serve an important purpose. In particular, it may serve as a reservoir for beneficial gut bacteria. The human appendix averages 9 cm in length but can range from 5 to 35 cm. The diameter of appendix is 6 mm and more than 6 mm is considered as thickened or inflamed appendix. Appendix is usually located in the lower right quadrant of the abdomen near to the right hip bone. The base of the appendix is located 2 cm beneath the ileocecal valve that separates large intestine from the small intestine. The position within the abdomen corresponds to a point of the surface known as McBurney's point. The appendicitis. For unclear reasons, appendix often become inflamed, infected and can rupture. This causes severe pain in the right lower part of the belly along with nausea and vomiting. The second question is draw and label the parts of female reproductive system. Describe the uterus in detail. And this is the picture of a female reproductive system which consists of the uterine fundus, fallopian tube, ovary, cervical canal, cervix, vagina, uterus, fimbriae and ovarian ligament. So uterus is a thick walled, pear-shaped, hollow muscular organ situated in the pelvic cavity with a urinary bladder in the front and rectum behind. It has a thick muscula and the central active cavity. The uterus is 7 to 8 cm long, 5 to 7 cm wide, 2 to 3 cm thick and weighs nearly 30 to 40 grams. The parts of uterus. The uterus has two major parts. They are first one is expanded superior two-third is known as the body. Otherwise the fundus of the abdomen is rounded upper part of the body. It is located the superior to the line joining to the points of entry of the fallopian tube. The site of entry of uterine tube or fallopian tube is called cornu. The cylindrical one-third is called as the cervix. Cervix is the neck of the uterus, is the lowest portion, a part of which projects like an inverted cone to the vault of the vagina. The cervix is divided into vaginal and supravaginal parts. The wall of uterus. The uterine have three layers. The outer serous cord or perimetrium made of peritoneum. Middle muscular cord or myometrium is 12 to 15 mm thick and consists of smooth muscles and fibers. The inner mucous cord of endometrium. The endometrium is shed during menstruation. Blood supply. It is supplied by branches of the uterine arteries, that is the branch of internal iliac artery, venous drainage into the internal iliac veins. Lymphatic drainage to the external iliac, internal iliac and aortic nodes. Nerve supplied by autonomous nervous system, sympathetic T12, L1 and parasympathetic S2, S3 and S4. The third question is mention the classification of bones and describe different types. Draw and label a structure of a synovial joint. So the bone classified into long, short, flat, irregular and sesamoid. So here is the examples of this type of bonds and their functions. Long bond as a leverage, short provides stability, support while allowing some motion. Flat bonds are the attachment for muscles, protectors of internal organs. Irregular bonds protect internal organs and sesamoid bond protect internals from compressive forces. According to position, there are axial skeletal and appendicular bonds. Bond for axis of the body, example ribs, skull, sternum and vertebrae. Appendicular bonds are bonds forming skeleton or appendage of the limbs. According to structure, it is divided into compact bonds, spongy or cancellous, and diploid bonds are the inner and outer layer of compact bond with spongy substance in between, which is rich of bone marrow. Example, most of the cranial bonds. And here is the picture of a synovial joint. We have an articular capsule, synovial membrane, synovial fluid in between, articular surface of the bone and articular cartilage. The fourth question is the structure of testis. This is the structure of testis which have the vast differences: head of epidermis, body of the epidermis, tail of the epidermis, and testicular artery, efferent ductus, septa, lobules, and tunica albuginea. Males have two testicles of similar size contained within the scrotum, which is an extension of the abdominal wall. Scrotal asymmetry is not unusual. One testicle extends farther down to the scrotum than the other due to difference in the anatomy of the vasculature. An average adult testicle measures up to 5 cm into 2 cm into 3 cm. The testis is covered by a rough, tough membranous shell called tunica albuginea. Within the testis are very fine coiled tubes are called seminiferous tubules. The tubules are lined with a layer of cells like germ cells that develop from puberty to the old age into sperm cells. The temperature of the testis is maintained at 35 degrees Celsius or 95 degrees Fahrenheit, that is 2 degrees below the body temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. Higher temperature affects spermatogenesis. There are a number of mechanisms to maintain the testis in the optimum temperature. The fifth question is part of cytoplasm. This is a picture of a cytoplasm. The cell contains three parts: cell membrane, nucleus, and between the tubes the cytoplasm. Within the cytoplasm lie the intricate arrangements of the fine fibers and hundreds or even thousands of minuscule but distinct called organelles. Cell membrane. Every cell in the body enclosed by a cell, that is plasma membrane. The cell membrane separates material outside the cell, that is extracellular, from the material inside the cell, that is known as the intracellular. It maintains the integrity of the cell and controls passage of materials in and out of the cell. The nucleus and nucleolus. The nucleus is formed by a nuclear membrane around the fluid nucleoplasm. It is the control center of the cell. Threads of chromatin in the nucleus contain DNA, the genetic material of the cell. The nucleolus is a dense region of RNA in the nucleus and is site of ribosome formation. The nucleus determines how the cell will function as well as the basic structure of that particular cell. Cytoplasm is a gel-like fluid inside the cell. It is the medium for chemical reaction. It provides upon other organelles can operate within the cell. All of the functions for the cell expansion, growth, replication are carried out in the cytoplasm of a cell. Cytoplasmic organelles. The cytoplasmic organelles are the little organs that are suspended in the cytoplasm of the cell. Each type of organelle has a definitive structure and a specific role in the function of the cell. Examples of the cytoplasmic organelles are mitochondrion, ribosome, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, and lysosome. Structure of middle ear. This is the picture of a middle ear. Middle ear is the portion of the ear internal to the eardrum and external to the oval window of the inner ear. Middle ear consists of three ossicles which transfer vibrations of eardrum into waves in the fluid and membranes of the inner ear. The hollow space of the middle ear, also known as the tympanic cavity, and is surrounded by tympanic part of the temporal bone. The auditory tube, which is also known as eustachian tube or the pharyngeal tympanic tube, joins tympanic cavity with the nasal cavity, allowing pressure to equalize between middle ear and throat. The primary function of the middle ear is to efficiently transfer acoustic energy from compression waves in air to fluid membrane base within the cochlea. The ossicles. The middle ear consists of three tiny bones known as the ossicles malleus, incus, and stapes. The ossicles were given Latin names for the distinctive changes. They are also referred to hammer, anvil, stirrup, respectively. The ossicles directly couple sound energy from the eardrum to the oval window of the cochlea. muscles. The movement of the ossicles may be stiffened by two muscles. They are the stapedius muscle, the smallest skeletal muscle in the body, connects to the stapes and controlled by facial nerve. Second is tensor tympani muscle is attached to the upper end of the medial surface of the handle of the malleus and is under control of a medial pituitary nerve, which is the branch of mandibular nerve of trigeminal nerve. Nerves. The surgical importance, two branches of facial nerve that also pass through the middle ear space. Then the seventh question is types and structures of muscles. Skeletal muscles are attached mainly to the skeletal bones, but some are also attached to other structures in the eye for the eye movement. The skeletal muscle also called as striated muscles because it's a banding pattern which viewed under microscope the voluntary muscles. The cardiac muscles are responsible for rhythmic contractions of the heart. Cardiac muscles are involuntary. It generates its own stimuli to initiate a muscle contraction. While cardiac muscle also consists of striations, the main characteristic that is differentiate these striations from the skeletal muscle is the presence of intercalated disc. Smooth muscles, the lines of the walls of the hollow organs, for example, lines the walls of blood vessels, digestive tract, where it serves advanced movement of substance. A smooth muscle contraction is relatively slow and involuntary. The muscle is a group of muscle tissue which contract together to produce a force. A muscle consists of fibers of muscle cells surrounded by protectively bundled together. Many more fibers are surrounded in a thick protective tissue. Structure of muscle. The muscle consists of many muscle tissue bundled together surrounded by epimysium, a tough connective tissue similar to the cartilage. The epimysium surrounds the bundle of nerves that run along the fibers called fascicles. These fascicles are surrounded by their own protective layer, that is perimysium. The layer allows nerves and blood flow to the individual fiber. Each fiber is then wrapped by endomysium, another protective layer. The muscle arranged in a basic pattern of bundled fibers separated by protective layers. These layers and bundles allow different parts of muscles to contract differently. The protective layer surrounding the bundle allows the different bundles to slide part another as they contract. The epimysium connects to tendons which attach the periosteum connective tissue that surrounds bones. Being anchored to two bones allow the movement of skeleton when the muscle contracts. The different types of muscles surrounds many organs and epimysium connects to other connective tissues to produce forces on the organs controlling everything from circulation to food processing. Structure of a nephron with diagram. This is a picture of a nephron. Each kidney, nearly 1 million complex tubular structures called nephron. Each nephron consists of a filtering capsule called renal capsule or Malpighian body and a renal tubule. The renal tubule opens to a longer tubule called collecting duct. The renal tubule begins with double-wrapped cup-shaped structure known as the Bowman's capsule, which encloses ball of capillaries that delivers fluid to the tubules called glomerulus. The Bowman's capsule and the glomerulus together consist of the renal corpuscle. The endothelium of glomerulus has many pores. External parietal layer of Bowman's capsule is made up of simple squamous epithelium and visceral layer is made up of epithelial cells called pontocytes. The pontocytes end in food process which cling to the basement of membrane of the glomerulus. The openings between the food process called filtration slit. So, answer briefly. Applied aspect of deltoid muscle. The intramuscular injections are given often to the deltoid. They are given to the middle of the muscle to avoid injury to the axillary nerve. If the injection is given in the upper part of deltoid, axillary nerve may be damaged. The deltoid muscle is tested by asking patient to abduct the arm against resistance applied with one hand and feeling for contracting muscles with the other hand. Axillary nerve may be damaged by dislocation of the shoulder or by fraction of the surgical neck of the humerus. The effects produced are rounded contour of shoulder is lost, greater tubercle of humerus become prominent and deltoid paralyzed, with loss of power of abduction about 90% at the shoulder, 90° at the shoulder. Structure of the spinal cord. Spinal cord runs through a hollow case from the skull within the vertebral column. Spinal nerves arise from different regions of the vertebral column and named accordingly. The regions are neck, chest, pelvic and abdomen. The cross-section of spinal cord displays grey matter shaped like butterflies surrounding by the white matter. The grey matter consists of the central canal at the center and filled with a fluid called cerebrospinal fluid. It consists of horns like four projections and forms the core mainly containing neurons and cells of the CNS. There are two dorsal and two ventral horns. The white matter consists of an axon, communication between different layers of CNS. The tract is a collection of axons and carries specialized information. The ascending tract and descending tract sends the transmit signals from brain respectively to various nerve cells across the body. The spinal nerves act as mediators, communicating information to and from the rest of the body and the spinal cord. We have 31 pairs of spinal nerves. 3 layers of meninges surround the spinal cord and spinal nerve roots: dura mater, arachnoid mater and pia mater. Dura mater consists of 2 layers, periosteal and meningeal. Epidural space is present between the 2 layers. Subarachnoid space lies between the arachnoid mater and pia mater. It is filled with the CSF. This is the picture of the spinal cord. Structure of ureter. Ureters are bilateral, muscular, tubular structures responsible for taking urine from one kidney to the urinary bladder for storing to excretion. From collecting ducts, the urine passes from the calcaris to the renal pelvis, which marks the beginning of the ureters. The arterial supply to the ureters comes directly and indirectly from the abdominal aorta. There is no ganglia on the ureters. However, it receives both sympathetic and parasympathetic innervation. The ureters are collapsible S-shaped channels, each about 25 cm in length. They are the widest renal pelvis and narrow progressively as they enter the urinary bladder in the concavity of the true pelvis. The lumen of each ureter is lined by a mucosal layer of transitional epithelium, which accommodates an increase in pressure that accompanies increase in the volume of urine leaving kidney, thereby aiding to minimize the risk of rupturing ureters. These conduits have several infolding causing by the multiple layers of smooth muscle throughout the ureteral wall. The wall of the ureter consists of 3 layers. They are the outer layer of the fibrous cord, the supporting layer of fibrous connective tissue. The middle layer, muscular cord, consists of the inner circular and outer longitudinal smooth muscle. The main function of this layer is peristalsis to compel the urine. The inner layer is the mucosa, is the transitional epithelium that continues with the lining of the renal pelvis and the urinary bladder. This layer secretes mucus, which coats and protects the surface of the cells. Structure of tongue. Tongue is a muscular organ in the mouth covered with moist pink tissue called mucosa. It is involved in licking, tasting, breathing, swallowing and speaking. The papillae present on the tongue gives a rough texture. It is covered by a number of taste buds. These are several nerves in the tongue that helps in transmitting the taste signals to the brain and this helps in the taste sensation. The human tongue is about 3.3 inches in men and almost 3.1 inches in women. It is located in the oral cavity. The tongue divided into 3 parts: tip, body and the base. The tongue is embryologically divided into anterior and posterior part. The anterior part is known as the oral or vesical part that includes root attached to the floor of oral cavity, whereas the posterior part is known as the pharyngeal or postcecal part that includes the base forming the ventral wall of the oropharynx. Tongue is made up of 3 elements, that is epithelium. Epithelium comprises the papillae and taste buds. The taste buds helps to sense the taste. They are lined by squamous epithelial tissue and have a broad bottom. The taste cells are slender, rod shaped with nucleus in the center. The free surface comprises short taste hair. The taste cells help in detecting taste, which dissolves in saliva for proper sensation. Muscles. The tongue muscles are voluntary and contain cross-striated muscle fibers. Glands. Tongue consists of small scattered glands. These glands are three types: mucus glands, serous glands, and lymph nodes. The lymph nodes are very prominent at the posterior part of the tongue and known as lingual tonsils. The glossopharyngeal nerve and the contratympanic branch of the facial nerve are responsible for taste sensation. The sensation of pain, touch, temperature carried out by the trigeminal nerve. Next is differentiate between arteries and veins. In function, arteries involve carrying pure oxygenated blood and nutrient-rich blood, but veins involved in carrying impure deoxygenated blood. Walls. The arterial walls consist of three distinct layers that are rigid, thicker, and highly muscular. But the vein is three distinct layers which are thin and collapsible. Arteries located deep within the body, but the veins are peripherally located close to the skin. Arteries are red in color, but the veins are blue in color. Arteries carry blood away from heart to the various part of the body. Veins carry blood towards the heart from various part of the body. The arteries have high pressure as the blood flows by pumping pressure of the heart, but veins have low pressure as the blood flows by capillary action of the veins. And the oxygen level in the arteries are higher and oxygen level in the veins are low. The carbon dioxide level in the arteries are low, but carbon dioxide level in the veins are high. The downward direction from the heart to the body, but veins are in upward direction from the body tissue to the heart. Lumina is narrow in artery, lumina is wide in vein. Valves are absent in artery, but valves are present in vein. Arteries are at great risk of certain diseases like angina pectoris, atherosclerosis, but veins are less susceptible to diseases varicose veins. The 14th is inversion and eversion moment. Inversion and eversion moments which occur at the angle joint referring to the rotation of foot around its long axis. Inversion, it involves the movement of sole towards the median plane so that sole faces the medial direction. Eversion involves the movement of sole away from the median plane so that the sole faces in the lateral direction. Thank you.